like, ah, it's my binder, and they're like, oh, the binder, and you're like, oh, I'm trans. That day is going to change my life, and I'm so excited. But it was not good. At the time of filming this video, my surgery is approximately 2 weeks away. I'm going to let future/editing Dan tell you kind of the timeline of like if it's right before or like after. But I kind of wanted to talk about the road to surgery, I guess, if that makes sense, because it's been painfully long and like way too drawn out, and just, it's been a lot. It's been a lot. Obviously, I haven't had surgery yet because I'm wearing a binder. I'm so excited to never have to wear a binder again ever in my life. I'm just gonna be flat all the time. I can go anywhere I want and stay for as long as I want and not have to be like, oh, it's been 8 hours since I put on my binder and I have to go take it off. Like, God, I'm so excited. I cannot express to you, like, if you are cis, you lucky bastard. You just wake up and are comfortable in your body and don't feel crippling dysphoria every time you take a shower. Wow, I'm so freaking excited. Here's the thing. I came out to myself and my friend December of 2019. And the way that I figured out I was non-binary is that I felt extreme dysphoria relating to my chest. And then like other things kind of followed, but that was kind of the main tipping point that I was like, oh, cis people don't feel that way about their bodies. I might be trans. Spoiler alert, I am. And so I got a binder, and these are the pictures of when I first put on my binder. Look how happy I look. Every day it was euphoria. Looking in the mirror, I'm like, my clothes finally fit the way that they're supposed to. I had this flannel that I had since I was like 15, right? I would always wear it and I'd be like, oh, this feels so weird. Like, why is this flannel? It just doesn't look right. It's because my chest wasn't flat. That makes sense. Everything just kind of clicked into place. And like when I got a binder and like felt that gender euphoria, I started thinking about top surgery, right? But obviously this wasn't a decision that I wanted to make lightly, because it's pretty permanent. It's pretty gosh darn permanent. And so I didn't want to just be like, oh, no, I'm feeling really good with this binder on, so I'm gonna get surgery. Like I did not want to make the decision lightly or in a rushed way. Every day I thought about, I was like, okay, how do I feel about my chest today? And most of the time it was, I do not want it to be there. And then when I didn't feel that way, it was like, I don't really care. It was indifference. And then I had the opportunity to kind of look back at my life and be like, okay, how have I felt about that part of my body throughout my life? And when I was 10 and, you know, things started happening, puberty started happening, and I had to start wearing like a bra, I was like, I hate this. This is the worst. No. I think part of it is because I'm autistic and I don't like change, and bras aren't really that comfortable. But also I was like, this is not how this is supposed to look. Why is this changing? Like, what is going on? And then just kind of realizing, like, all throughout, like, my teenage years, people would be like, oh, I'm so sad that I have such small boobs. And I'm like, kind of wish I had no boobs or small boobs. And then it was like, yeah, no, that's not very cis of me. Just kind of looking back and realizing that this is something that I felt pretty consistently was another thing that kind of led me to be like, yeah, I'm gonna get the gender affirming surgery. The gender euphoria of wearing a binder for the first time, the way I felt when I hit puberty and things were like developing, and then just kind of the way I felt like throughout my teenage years and my early 20s. I'm still in my early 20s, but you know, before this, of just kind of like how I felt, and just realizing that whole time, the reason why I was so uncomfortable is because I was experiencing gender dysphoria. I just didn't have the language for it. So realizing that was kind of the big step for me deciding to get surgery. And then I had to be like, okay, what does my insurance cover? There were like a couple, right, to kind of choose from, but one really stood out to me. One, because it was like geographically pretty close, and two, because there were posts like on the internet about people being like, this surgeon's work is really good, like I'm really happy with how mine turned out. And he seemed to like have a bit of a track record kind of in the trans community. I was really glad that there were photos of people kind of showing his work and describing their experience with him. And so that's kind of like the main reason why I chose like that particular surgeon, is just because there was so much more information about him and discussion about his work within the community. And so I called him up, I scheduled, you know, kind of my first consultation appointment. So I talked to the surgeon about what I wanted, and he was like, okay, I recommend double incision with nipple grafts. And I allowed to say that? Am I allowed to say nipple grafts? I mean, I've said boobs. I guess I am. But he's like, I recommend double incision with nipple grafts. I'm like, cool, you're the surgeon, you know what's up. And he's like, okay, now we have to get pictures of like the before so I can kind of like analyze things. And that was when I was like, good sir, I do not like that part of my body. Like, that it brings me extreme distress. I wasn't quite that dramatic about it, but the nurse was so lovely. She stood in front of the mirror that was on the door, so I didn't have to see myself. And then I stood on this like little mat thing. Here's a picture, and it had little pride flags, and it had the gender fluid flag, and that's me, and that made me so happy. And so you stood, and like they took pictures as you kind of like rotated around. They were like, it's really secure, like no one else is gonna see these. I was like, go for it. I don't really care. Like, I didn't really pay attention. They're like, we need these pictures. I'm like, cool. I didn't really pay attention to the why. I was like, just take them and let me put my biter back on. And there were like little pride flags at the check-in desk. They made sure I was comfortable, and then that kind of cemented in my mind. I was like, yeah, I made the right choice with going with this surgeon. I'm really happy with my decision. And then came the excruciating wait, because a couple things have to happen before you get surgery. You have to get a mammogram. Regardless of kind of anything, they have to make sure there's no like concerning growths in your tissue. If you're going like trying to get it approved through insurance, you have to have a letter from a therapist being like, yes, this is medically necessary, and we've evaluated them and examined them, and like they've been diagnosed with gender dysphoria. So you have to get a therapist letter in order to have it covered by insurance, and you have to submit the appeal, and that takes like weeks, and it just kind of takes forever. But the thing with my therapist office is apparently you have to be going there for at least 6 months before they write any kind of letters for surgery and stuff. In March, when I went to like my first consultation, I had only been seeing my current therapist for 3 months, so I had to wait another 3 months before they would write the letter, and then I had to wait like 2 weeks for insurance to get back, and like that part was awful. I was like, I just want the letter, just send the letter. And like, I get why they're like, yeah, we're gonna wait 6 months, like till you've seen us for 6 months. So like, you know, my therapist like really knows and like has a good handle on like kind of what's going on in Dan's brain, but it was agonizing. And so like in that kind of like agonizing waiting period, I went and I got my mammogram to make sure there weren't any concerning growths. And let me tell you, the mammogram was awful. It was worth it. Like, I need to stress that it was worth it, but it was not good. The clinic I went to was very much like, women fight breast cancer, like women over 40 get your mammogram. And I was like, I'm a non-binary, gender fluid 22-year-old. But the reception lady was so lovely, and she was like, oh, like, why are you getting a mammogram? And I was like, oh, I'm, you know, getting gender affirming surgery. And she's like, oh my gosh, I'm so, like, that's amazing. Like, that's so brave of you. I'm so happy for you. And like, I almost cried in the little like office waiting area of just this lady being so lovely and being like, I'm so proud of you for getting this surgery, right? Because I had like a lot of backlash from people in my life and like talking about like people detransitioning, and like it's such a tiny small percentage. Like, the people who detransition deserve our love and support. Like, that's gotta be tough, right? But it's such a small tiny percentage that you can't keep throwing it in the face of trans people who are trying to transition. Like, 50% of marriages end in divorce, but people don't bring that up to people on their wedding day, right? It's happy you're having your wedding, and the rate of detransition is so low. I think it's less than 1%. I'll put like a citation on the screen, but I'm pretty sure it's like less than 1%. And so with something that has such a high satisfaction rate, the fact that people were constantly like, you're gonna regret this, don't do it, you're mutilating your body. I was like, it's, first of all, it's my body. Why do you care about my boobs so much? Second of all, let me do what I want. Like, if I was having a child or like getting married, you'd be like, oh, this is so happy, this is so great. And like, having a child is like way more permanent than getting gender affirming surgery. That's a whole other person, but you'd be like, oh, so happy. And I was just kind of really tired of people just being like, you're gonna regret this, don't do it. And I was like, I have felt dysphoria about this part of my body since it developed. Like, leave me alone. I am getting my surgery. Stop trying to be like, but you're going to regret it. And like, I get to that, like, you know, some of these people, like, I had come out to pretty recently. I didn't come out to everybody all at once as soon as I knew. Like, it took a year or two to kind of come out to everybody. And so some people were like, well, you just came out, like, this is a new thing. And I had to explain to them and be like, no, I actually came out in like December of 2019. Was it 2019? I think it was 2020. Just kidding. In December of 2020. It's been like 2 years at this point. Like, I'm very sure I've talked with my therapist about it a lot. And so, like, there was people being concerned, and then there were also just people being really annoying and really ignorant. They just didn't know what was going on, and it was just really frustrating, right? And so having this lovely person at the mammogram place was so lovely and so nice. I had this fancy little robe that I put on. It was very awkward. I did not like it. I had to have, you know, my chest out for like an extended period of time so they could like get the imaging and all the stuff they needed, and it was very uncomfortable and I did not like it, and I definitely cried afterwards in the car just because it just wasn't fun. It was kind of emotionally harrowing. But I did it. By doing that, I now have the opportunity to get surgery. So it was worth it, but was not fun. If everything had gone according to plan, I probably would have gotten surgery in like August or September. But your boy had a little housing crisis. Some things happened. I have a video about it that delayed things like very significantly. So first we had like the therapist roadblock, and now we have like this thing where I'm like, I don't have stable housing. There's not like a stable place for me to recover from surgery. So like I had to postpone it more. And finally, I have a stable enough place to like recover from surgery and kind of get that out of the way so I can move on with my life. And I can't believe that it's finally happening. That day is going to change my life, and I'm so excited. I'm never gonna have to wear a binder again. I'm gonna be able to like wear swim trunks. Going swimming and like going to like the beach or the lake isn't gonna be like this big, emotionally draining and involved process. I'm just gonna be able to throw on my swim trunks and just go and do things instead of having to worry about like, oh, how long am I gonna be able to wear my binder? Like, what should I wear on top of my body? I can just go and I can just have fun, and I'm going to be able to live my life without having to think about my chest all the time. I cannot describe how exhausting it is to constantly worry about how long I've been wearing my binder and like make sure I take my binder break days. I don't like people seeing me without a binder on unless I'm really close to them. So like constantly having to worry about that and like constantly being like, okay, don't look down when I'm in the shower or like in the bath. It's just mentally and emotionally exhausting to have that constantly be on your mind. I'm so excited for that to be a non-issue anymore, to be able to look down and be like, yeah, that's my body. That's how it's supposed to look. That's how it's always supposed to have looked. I get to present myself as who I really am all the time, and I don't have to worry about like how long I can wear this specific piece of clothing without doing damage to my body. And also, like, wearing a binder is not comfy. Your back hurts. It's a pain to get on and off. And then you can't wear like wide neck shirts without it peeking out. People are like, oh, what's that? And you're like, oh, it's my binder. And they're like, what's a binder? And you're like, oh, I'm trans. I mean, it's kind of obvious that I'm trans because I use they, them pronouns, but like, I'm just so excited for this to be done and over with, and just to be able to finally breathe and to finally just exist, to feel on the outside how I've always felt on the inside. I'm excited to like go visit my family and be able to be like, ta-da! I transitioned. I'm non-binary. I'm gender fluid. This is what a gender fluid person looks like. This is what a gender fluid body looks like. And obviously, like, the way I am right now, this is also a gender fluid body, but having my surgery is gonna feel like my gender fluid body. I am just so excited. And I know that it's gonna kind of open up, like, some people might have some gross things to say about it, or like just kind of be rude generally, but I don't know, people are kind of rude to me anyway. I'm already visibly trans, whatever that means, because I use they, them pronouns, and so it's obvious like this person is not cis, because like they already know. They already freaking know. They already know I'm not. Look at me. Do I look cis to you? I don't look cis to me, and that's the point. Anyway, I'm just really excited, honestly. I'm also gonna do like a little vlog of like the actual surgery and my recovery. They're probably gonna be in one video. I was obsessed with watching top surgery vlogs kind of in that waiting period. I don't know. I'm excited to put one out and be able to be like, this is my top surgery journey and this is my recovery. So that will be coming at some point. I hope you have a good day / week / month / whatever period of time, you know? I hope it's good.